I'll tell you what, LinkedIn, once again, is a super valuable source for all of the trends going on. It's really become, I think, the biggest business conversation in the world, especially since the pandemic, because we all got sent home and we didn't have friends to talk to. So we started talking to people on LinkedIn. I use it for my research. I have learned a ton about AI and how we can apply AI to sales, in the last 90 days.
Dave, welcome to the BCF ORG podcast, the business of business.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate being here.
Thanks for joining us today, Dave. Dave, I'm always interested in people's stories. What's your background in founding the Tech Sales Coach?
Yeah, so I ran large technology company sales forces for about 20 years. Prior to that, I was a salesperson, sales manager, but then moved my way up the ranks. And the thing that I got the most joy out of in my career was coaching and mentoring salespeople to success. And so in 2016, I decided to take my life back and not do the 80-hour work weeks and focus solely on, sales training solutions for technical sales teams and engineers.
Our topic today is customer-centric selling. Can you walk us through the customer-centric selling methods and how they can benefit sales teams?
Absolutely. The modern buyer has changed quite a bit since the information age happened. It used to be that we as salespeople would help customers discover problems and find solutions, but they have so many resources at their fingertips now that they can figure all of that out. And therefore, the salesperson gets involved much later in that buying process. And so customer-centric selling teaches us to be buyer-centric, to help them with their buying process, what their buying criteria is, because that's usually the phase that we get introduced. And so, I've been training on it since 2006, probably over 1,000 salespeople to date. And the results are phenomenal because the buyer feels honored throughout the process, not like they're being sold to.
Yeah, that's what things have changed so much with the internet. When I got into sales, we were providers of information. We'd take the catalogs out and around and so forth in the days of the bingo cards, going back a few years. And yeah, I totally agree. Now people do all that. They know what they want a lot of times before you ever talk to them.
Yeah. And then, it's about coming in and understanding what brought them to that point in their research. And then what are their goals and expected outcomes? From there, we can do valuable discovery to find value in our offer, and then it's from that point on, it's really just about helping them in their journey to buy something to solve their problem.
Absolutely. Well, what are some of the common challenges that sales teams face today?
Right now, it's really about prospecting and net new. I work with a lot of companies that are doing a great job of growing their existing customer base, renewals, but where they're all struggling is finding net new opportunities. And so, I teach a method of, and let me just first say, cold calling, email cold, it doesn't work anymore. Like the hit rates are 1 in 100. You might get a person to answer the phone. And so what we teach sellers is you've got to use referral-based networking, and you've got to use things like LinkedIn to let your potential buyer get to know you and your value before you approach them. And that way it's not really a cold approach. So I personally, and what I teach is let's leverage LinkedIn to find our prospects. And then what we do is we follow and engage with their content, because a beautiful thing in LinkedIn is the notifications. And we're all tied to, our technology tethers now, and that little bell goes on or your phone rings and that notification says Dave Elsner just looked at your profile. And then it says Dave Elsner just commented on one of your posts. Then it says Dave Elsner followed you. And that kind of stuff creates curiosity for the buyers. And they end up coming and looking at my profile to figure out what I do. And there, my profile, is beautifully written to show all the value that I can bring to their business. Once they look at my profile, I then send a connection request that says, thanks for looking at my profile. Let's connect. I love the idea of networking with the industry that you're in. And as a result, I get a very high acceptance rate for connection requests. Now I know they're going to see my content. And so what I do is I share a lot of content that positions me as a subject matter expert in sales training for tech companies. And I get a ton of inbound as a result. And so really that's, if you're struggling with finding net new, there's a new modern approach that's working much better nowadays. It's personalized, it's networking based, and it creates curiosity. So the buyer is interested in you first.
Now, who is this Dave Elsner guy?
Exactly.
We're speaking with Dave Elsner, founder of the Tech Sales Coach. How do you stay up to date with the latest trends and developments in sales, Dave?
Yeah, well, hey, obviously we all read books, but I'll tell you what, LinkedIn, once again, is a super valuable source for all of the trends going on. It's really become, I think, the biggest business conversation in the world, especially since the pandemic, because we all got sent home and we didn't have friends to talk to. So we started talking to people on LinkedIn. I use it for my research. I have learned a ton about AI and how we can apply AI to sales, in the last 90 days. And so it's things like that. It's the tools that I see people using and sharing. It's the processes I see people using, sharing, that come with proof. And so, I think it's a phenomenal research tool to find and discover what's new and what's hot.
Well, Dave, what results have you seen with businesses that have implemented your sales approach?
Yeah, it's really about an increase in conversations. What we do by warming them up opens the door for a conversation, it creates that curiosity. And so what we're getting is more conversations for salespeople that can convert to more customers. Previously I mentioned that cold calling is 1 out of 100. We're seeing success rates like 40 out of 100, where we're getting 40 conversations when we target the right 100 people. And so, we're also seeing people positioned as subject matter experts. So when a customer's doing their research, they'll remember what you posted and that you might be an expert in that field.
We're speaking with Dave Elsner, founder of the Tech Sales Coach. Dave, is there anything I've not asked that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just think it's worth mentioning, we've built 4 phenomenal workshops. We've got a modern prospecting workshop. We've got our social selling workshop. We train on customer-centric selling, which is a sales method to improve results at every stage. And then we train sales engineers on soft skills, because typically all they get is technical training. They get certifications. What we want them to know is how to do a good whiteboard or a demo or a presentation, how to be included in the sales process in discovery all the way through to negotiations. And so appreciate you letting me say that.
Oh, sure. Dave, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, it's the Tech Sales Coach, everything. So thetechsalescoach.com, the Tech Sales Coach on YouTube, and the Tech Sales Coach on LinkedIn.
Dave, thank you very much for joining us today on the BCF ORG podcast, The Business of Business.
My pleasure. Awesome.